Hi guys, different little video here. What happened to Michael Jackson on June 25th, 2009? So basically the answer to that question is you gotta see what took place in his life within the last 24 hours. Or you can go back months or whatnot. The night before, he was at rehearsal at the Staples Center for his upcoming This Is It tour, which was to commence July 7th, I believe, 2009, and run till March 2010. Um, in the This Is It video, you see different parts of recording from like probably March or April till right up till the night before he died. In fact, Earth Song and Thriller are those two performances on the This Is It DVD are actually from the night before he died. And by all accounts, when you watch that, he looked fine. He sang the Earth Song or whatever. Uh, he seemed to be in well shape. Like his mannerism, his mind. He just seemed to be in. And for Thriller, he danced and he seemed to be really spot on. So the next day he dies. So I mean, I think if I was somebody close to Michael Jackson at that one particular time, I'd be like, well, I mean, the AEG, or the director Kenny Ortega said that at times he found that Michael Jackson was kind of cold, shivering. He was obsessing over stuff. Almost kind of, to me, thinking about it and reading about it, hearing about it, it's almost like he was having withdrawal symptoms of from a particular medication, maybe, or just in general, his all around general health. Uh, so he said, he brought up his concerns to Michael's doctor, Conrad Murray. Conrad Murray's response was, "You take care of the tour, I'll take care of his health." So Michael Jackson was paying Conrad Murray, I believe it was $250,000 a year. A month, 250 grand a month. So if you're paying somebody 250 grand a month, you're gonna get what you want. I don't care who you are. It doesn't really get much bigger than Michael Jackson. If I personally was paying a doctor $250,000 a month to look after me and take care of me, well, you know what? I think I would say that I would be on everything, because I'd say, hey, my arm's sore. Give me the best pain medication you can give me, or like I'm having such terrible anxiety. I need something that's gonna put me there into a hypnotic state where I'm gonna be, just you know incoherent, we'll say. So, um, so we have the night of June 24th, 2009. Michael Jackson lived in address North Carrollwood, I believe, L.A., where they rehearsed at the Staples Center. They rehearsed well past midnight. So, during the trial for Conrad Murray for his involuntary manslaughter in the death of Michael Jackson, a lot of evidence was put forward detailing, what was happening in Michael Jackson's life. There was a lot of evidence that was brought forward, lots of medications, lots of different names, aliases, Michael Jackson, Mike Jackson, Mick Jackson, some even in Conrad Murray's name. There's just an abundance of bottles and medication that Michael Jackson was on. I mean, Michael Jackson was having issues with a lot of medications going back to the 80s, specifically since the Pepsi commercial, when he burned his hair. Essentially, since then, he always was wearing wigs. He had very little hair. He had actually tattooed eyebrows, and he had tattooed kind of around his lips because of that disease he had, the changes that made him white, villago, I believe it's called. He claimed he never bleached his skin, but in actuality, he was bleaching his skin for probably over 20 years because he was having patches of it throughout his body. They say that's why he wore the 3 bandages on his right hand when he performed, but I can't see him. Nobody's gonna see little black spots on your fingers, so I don't know why he did that. I think it was just a trademark, just like how he wore a wristband on his most of his costumes and whatnot. So Michael Jackson finishes his final dress rehearsal, June 24th. It lasted till midnight. So June 25th, 2009, Michael Jackson gets home. We seen a picture in his trial of his clothes that he wore that rehearsal on the floor in his bathroom by his shower. So that's an indication that was brought in by the prosecution or whatnot to testify against Dr. Conrad Murray. So that night, Michael Jackson didn't sleep, couldn't sleep. Michael Jackson suffered from insomnia for years, decades. Said he never could sleep, and basically, the drug that killed Michael Jackson was propofol, Diprovan, also what it's called. His death was attributed to acute propofol intoxication, with benzodiazepines being a contributing factor. So basically, Conrad Murray was feeding Michael Jackson's addiction very, very much. I mean, Michael Jackson's had an addiction to painkillers. He died in 2009. He had addiction to painkillers probably since the Pepsi commercial for the burn, third-degree burns, second-degree burns, or whatever on his scalp during that commercial. So off and on throughout his life, he abused, narcotics. I've heard that he abused alcohol a lot, specifically wine and stuff like that. But I've never seen a picture of Michael Jackson drinking anything. In concert, he'd say, "Oh, okay, drink this juice or whatever." I don't know if it was juice or whatever it was, but so he's been, from way back in his career, he's been having issues with dependency on anti-anxiety medications, which are benzodiazepines. He's had issues with narcotics and alcoholism. They say that family stage interventions and stuff, but at times he didn't want to hear it and whatnot. So basically, Dr. Conrad Murray was hired to be Michael's personal doctor throughout the trial to get him ready for his This Is It tour, which was 50, I believe, sold out dates. But based on the autopsy results, Michael Jackson would never have been able to live up to that many dates because of his health, which he was kind of probably unaware of himself. His lungs were burnt, I guess, from some kind of another disease he had, which caused his face in the mid-80s. You could see his face would be red, and it affected his lungs. And that's why he would use an umbrella, because his body was sensitive to sunlight. I'm not quite sure if it's necessarily villago or related, the fact that he was hypersensitive to sunlight, but he always carried an umbrella. So Michael Jackson gets home, goes to bed that night. Dr. Conrad Murray is by his side, and throughout the night, Dr. Conrad Murray is giving Michael Jackson doses of benzodiazepines, lorazepam, diazepam, midazolam. Those names are, Ativan, Ativan, Xanax. Midazolam is also known as Versed. A lot of what they call benzodiazepines, they end with pam. Like I said, lorazepam, diazepam, midazolam. So Michael Jackson was being infused with an IV, and throughout the night, Michael Jackson couldn't sleep. And so Dr. Murray would give him, I guess, I remember hearing that Michael Jackson took 10 or 11 lorazepam tablets at once. Now, for most people, that would probably kill them. But for Michael Jackson, he had a tolerance. When Michael Jackson's last night alive, he was coming off of Demerol, cold turkey, which Conrad Murray didn't know about. His dermatologist, Dr. Arnold Klein, was giving Michael Jackson shots of Demerol. Almost not daily, every few days. Michael Jackson would just show up and he would get his shot of Demerol, and then he'd be out of it or whatever, he'd be high, and then, he got what he wanted. And then he got, Dr. Conrad Murray, and Dr. Conrad Murray basically was giving Michael Jackson whatever he wanted. Michael Jackson was paying him very well. So I'm actually surprised that when Michael Jackson died, he did not have more drugs in his system than what he did, according to the autopsy report. Michael Jackson was addicted to 2 drugs that nobody should ever be addicted to, and the first one is midazolam, Versed, which is a short-acting analgesic, not an analgesic, but a short-acting sedative, hypnotic sedative, for very short procedures. It's not meant to induce sleep. It's just meant to give you a sense of like, okay, calmness while this procedure is being done. A 15-minute procedure. He gave Michael Jackson midazolam on a regular basis, and propofol, Diprivan. Propofol is a local anesthetic used for surgical procedures, basically to put you out during a surgery. Dr. Conrad Murray was giving Michael Jackson nightly injections of propofol for 60 days straight before he died. Now, he claims at the time that Michael Jackson died, he was weaning him off the propofol. Michael's not there to defend that. Michael's not there to say, I made the decision 30 days before that to get off propofol. But propofol was found in his system, and they say that Dr. Conrad Murray cut open an IV bag and had a drip of steady flow of propofol going through Michael Jackson's system. So those two drugs, nobody ever in this world should ever be addicted to those two medications, but Michael Jackson was. So he relied on it. So throughout that night, that morning, Conrad Murray pumped Michael Jackson full of benzodiazepines to help him sleep. Give him 15 milligrams of Valium, or 30 milligrams injection. 2 hours later, still awoke. Okay, let's give him some more. Let's try him with this. Let's try him with that. Still was asleep. So finally that morning, Michael Jackson said, "Give me my milk." He called it his milk, and it's often known as milk of magnesia. And Conrad Murray gave him a dose of propofol. Now, my personal opinion, had he not been pumping Michael Jackson full of benzodiazepines that whole entire night, that dose that he had given him of propofol that morning might not have killed him. I think based on the fact because his body was flooded with benzodiazepines, and that was a contributing factor in his death. It was acute propofol intoxication, with a contributing factor being benzodiazepines. Michael Jackson had 3 or 4 benzodiazepines in his system when he died, according to the toxicology report. So I believe that when Dr. Conrad Murray, I'm not sure of the dose, I don't know, I think that it could have been the standard dose or maybe a bit more, because Michael had a tolerance to it. He was addicted to it. So when you're addicted to something, you need more and you need more and you need more. So I believe that with the contributing factor of benzodiazepines being pumped through Michael Jackson directly IV, which makes medication stronger. When you go through an IV, it goes directly to your blood. It's not going through your body system. It's going directly into your blood, your central nervous system is being affected, your brain. It hits you hard right away. But Michael Jackson didn't fall asleep. So I believe personally that when Conrad Murray gave Michael Jackson that morning around 10 a.m., I believe it was, Los Angeles time, that when he gave him that dose, I believe that Michael Jackson fell asleep, and within 2 minutes or so, he passed away. Conrad Murray left the room. We all know he was talking on cell phones and all that, and he came back and seen Michael Jackson wasn't breathing. The security guard, I believe it was, called 911. He didn't say that the man was Michael Jackson. He just stated there was a doctor there to help that was attending to Michael Jackson. But Michael Jackson had no response. Dr. Conrad Murray injected, I believe it was lidocaine, into Michael Jackson's system to counter the benzodiazepine effect, so that way it could maybe perhaps bring him back, because he did have a weak pulse. But Conrad Murray, for being a cardiologist, was giving Michael Jackson CPR when he was on his bed. You're going to bounce back and forth. You're not going to have compression. So the 911 operator said, put him on the floor. Give him CPR on the floor. But there was no response. So I believe Michael Jackson, after receiving that dose, within a minute or two of falling asleep, he just died. I believe it was too much with the benzodiazepines, and the fact that he was coming off of Demerol without Dr. Murray knowing that. If Dr. Murray knew he was coming off of Demerol, he could have treated him for that. It's a shock to your system coming off of any narcotic pain reliever. If Michael Jackson hid that from Conrad Murray, I don't know why he would have. He could have been treated. But all these different factors contributed to the death of Michael Jackson. But I fully believe that Conrad Murray was guilty of, manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter, whatever, in the death of Michael Jackson. So that's what happened to Michael Jackson. And the more I can only do 15-minute videos until November 16th, so I'm gonna have to end this. But all those factors contributed to the death of Michael Jackson. Thanks for watching.